Welcome. Tonight, we let ourselves drift back to the early 16th century, to a time when the world was both familiar and yet distant, quiet and yet full of its own steady rhythms. Scene 1: daily life in Strasbourg. The year is 1518. The place is Strasbourg, a city along the river Ill, within the Holy Roman Empire. Imagine yourself there, not as a noble, not as a scholar or a merchant, but simply as one among the townsfolk. You are part of the hum of daily life, the pulse of a city that has stood for centuries, its walls weathered, its cathedral watching over it all. Morning rhythm. The day begins, not with alarms, not with the ringing of clocks, but with the gradual lifting of the sun over the rooftops. The air carries a cool dampness, a memory of the river mist that lingers over the stones. You hear shutters creak open, wooden hinges heavy with use. One by one, windows fill with pale light. From chimneys, thin smoke begins to rise, grey ribbons against the morning sky. The scent of kindling, of damp wood catching fire, drifts slowly down the alleys. You can almost taste the faint sharpness of ash on your tongue. In kitchens, women bend over hearths, stirring pots of porridge, baking coarse loaves of rye bread, heating milk. The morning meal is simple, but filling, the kind of food that must carry a body through long hours of work. Step outside, and the stones of the street are still damp with dew. Small patches of straw lie scattered, placed to quiet the sound of wheels and footsteps. A cart rattles slowly over the cobbles, its iron-bound wheels squeaking, the horse breathing mist into the air. The soundscape is soft. A hammer echoes faintly in the distance. The call of a rooster breaks through the hush. A child's laugh flickers and fades as quickly as it arrives. And above it all, the cathedral bells strike the first hour of the morning, their bronze tones rolling across rooftops and drifting into narrow lanes. The bells mark time here, not hours divided into minutes and seconds, but moments divided into rhythm. You live by them. You rise when they call. You work when they summon. You pause when they allow. The market square. As the morning deepens, the city begins to stir more fully. In the market square, merchants arrive with baskets, barrels, and carts. The square is not large, but it is alive with movement. A man tips out apples, bruised but fragrant, arranging them in uneven piles. A woman lays out bolts of wool, the fabric thick, heavy, and dyed in muted shades of blue, brown, and grey. A potter displays clay vessels, some chipped, some smooth, all shaped by hand and wheel. Leather shoes are placed neatly in pairs, their buckles catching the faint light. The market is modest, but it is essential. This is where people come to barter, to gossip, to share news. It is where they buy what they cannot grow, and sell what their own hands have made. Voices are low, steady. Nothing is hurried. The market does not demand speed. It waits patiently for those who come. Children dart between the stalls, barefoot on the stones. Their laughter echoes against the walls, their small games filling the spaces between adults' slower steps. They chase one another with sticks, roll wooden hoops, balance carefully on the edge of a fountain. Their play is part of the life of the square, just as much as the trades of their elders. Nearby, water is drawn from wells. Wooden buckets creak as they are lowered, splash as they strike the surface, and groan as they rise again, heavy with cool liquid. Women steady the pails against their hips, walking with practiced ease, the water sloshing quietly inside. You notice the way the city breathes everywhere, small sounds, layered but gentle, the ring of iron in a smithy, the steady thump of a mill turning grain, the scratch of brooms sweeping thresholds, the soft murmur of voices, trading and chatting, rising and falling like waves. Midday pause when the sun climbs high, warmth spreads into the narrow streets, shadows shrink. The air grows thick with the scent of food stews, simmering with cabbage, with leeks, with onions. Bread, coarse but nourishing, is broken and dipped into bowls. Cheese, ripened in cool cellars, is cut into uneven slices. Meals are shared slowly. Some sit on stools within their homes, some lean against walls outside, some gather in workshops. The food is humble, but it fills. And when the meal is done, people return to their tasks. There is no rush. Time is not pressed. Time is a rhythm, and the rhythm continues. Afternoon heat, the summer air grows warmer as the day drifts on. The sun presses against the stone walls, making them warm to the touch. The smell of dust and straw rises. You hear the creak of a cart moving through the narrow alleyways, its wooden wheels grinding against uneven cobbles. Laundry hangs above you, stretched across beams, swaying slightly in the faintest breeze. Whites are not bright here. Cloth is stained by time, washed dull by the river, faded into softness. In a workshop, a carpenter smooths wood, his strokes long and steady. The sound of his plane is rhythmic, almost soothing. In another, a blacksmith lifts his hammer, striking iron in slow, regular beats. Sparks jump, but even these bursts of light feel quiet in the rhythm of the day. Everywhere, work continues, not as urgency, but as necessity. Evening calm, when the bells ring again, the day begins to fold into itself. The light softens, shadows stretch long across the stones. People gather their baskets, their tools, their wares. Stalls are disassembled, carts are led back through the gates, and shutters are drawn. Candles are lit within homes, their flames small but steady. Fires glow in hearths, sending smoke curling into the night sky. The scent of herbs, of stews, of tallow candles fills the air. Inside, families sit close together. Some tell stories, voices low and slow. Some recite prayers, words repeated so often that they seem to rise and fall like breathing. The rhythm of the day draws to a close. Beyond the walls, the fields lie quiet. The river glimmers in the last light. An owl calls. A dog barks once, then falls silent. The city sleeps. Reflection, this is the life into which the dancing would arrive. A life measured in bells. A life steady, repetitive, familiar. Perhaps it was this steady rhythm that made the breaking of ether, sudden arrival of unstoppable motion, the more unsettling. For in Strasbourg, in the summer of 1518, where footsteps were measured and bells gave order, a single woman stepped into the street, and her feet would not stop moving. Seemed to Frau Troffea and the first dancers imagine, now that the day has ended. The streets of Strasbourg grow quiet, the soft glow of candles shining from narrow windows. The bells have rung the evening hour. People settle, as they always do, into the rhythm of rest. And yet, one woman does not rest. Her name, recorded by the scribes, was Frau Troffea. The first steps, it is July, in the year 1518. The heat of summer lingers, even at night. The stones of the streets still hold warmth from the sun. Somewhere, in a narrow lane, not far from the river, Frau Troffea steps outside her home. At first, she moves lightly, a step, a turn, a sway of the arms. Perhaps she begins without thought, perhaps to the memory of a song, or perhaps only to release something inside her that words could not hold. But then, the steps continue. Her feet strike the stones again, and again, and again. The neighbors notice. They watch quietly at first, curious but not alarmed. Dancing in the street is unusual but not unthinkable. Perhaps she is joyful, perhaps she is in celebration, but the joy does not appear. Her face is strained. Her body moves not with ease, but with effort. The hours pass, and still she dances. Through the night, when others lie in their beds, Frau Troffea continues. Her arms rise, her feet stamp, her body turns in endless circles. The days that follow when the sun rises again, she does not stop. Her clothes cling with sweat, her body trembles, yet she continues. The rhythm is relentless, as though it belongs not to her, but to something outside of her, something moving her against her will. Word spreads quickly. People gather in the square to see her. They murmur in soft voices, unsure of what they are witnessing. Some pity her, some fear her, some fear her, some laugh nervously, but only for a moment, for the strangeness soon silences them. By the second day, her body is swollen with exhaustion, her lips dry, her hair tangled, and still she moves. By the third day, she collapses at times, only to rise again, compelled to continue. And then, something even stranger occurs. Others begin to join her. The spread one by one, men and women step into the square, not in imitation, not in merriment, but in the same uncontrollable rhythm. Their feet move as though pulled by invisible strings. Their arms lift and fall in restless gestures. Soon dozens are moving together. A silent orchestra, a dance without music. The city square becomes a stage, but not of performance, not of joy. It becomes a place of compulsion. People gather around to watch, but there is no festival here, only exhaustion, only bewilderment. Day after day, the dancers do not stop. They collapse, they rise, they continue. Some cry out in pain, yet their bodies do not rest. Some whisper prayers as they move, hoping for release. Others give in silently, their faces blank with fatigue. The onlookers are unsettled. They whisper theories. Is this the hand of God? Is it punishment? Is it a curse? Is it madness, spreading from one body to another, carried not by touch, but by sight, by presence, by fear? The authorities respond, the city leaders take notice. The councillors of Strasbourg are practical men, but they are also bound by faith and tradition. They believe that those who dance must be cured. And how does one cure a body that will not stop moving? By letting it move. The authorities do not forbid the dancers. Instead, they arrange for space to be cleared. The square is opened further. In some accounts, even musicians are summoned, fiddlers, drummers, pipers, so that the dancers might move in time with music, in hopes that rhythm will exhaust them into stillness. But the music does not calm them, it fuels them. The steps continue, the stamping grows louder, the bodies whirl faster. The people of Strasbourg begin to see it not as sickness, but as possession, something greater, darker, moving through their neighbours. And yet, still, the authorities allow the dancing to continue. For, in their eyes, the body must move until the curse has run its course. The toll as days turn into weeks, the toll becomes heavy. Some collapse and do not rise. Some survive, their bodies broken, their minds shaken. Others dance until their feet bleed, until their muscles tear, until exhaustion claims them. The chroniclers write of death, though their numbers differ. Some say dozens, others hundreds. But even if only a handful, the image remains haunting. People dancing to the edge of life and beyond it. The theories of the time for the people of 1518, explanations, came in the language of faith. They believed it was the wrath of saints, punishment for sins unspoken. They believed the dancers were chosen, vessels through which divine anger was shown. Prayers were offered, candles were lit, pilgrimages were arranged. Those afflicted were led to holy sites, their bodies still swaying, their feet dragging on the road, and yet the dance continued. Reflection, imagine yourself standing in that square. The air is hot with the press of summer. The stones echo with the sound of countless feet, stamping, sliding, turning. The air is heavy with sweat, with dust, with the murmurs of a fearful crowd. You watch, and you cannot look away. You wonder if you, too, might feel the pull, if your own body might betray you, if the rhythm might seize you next. This is no festival. This is no joy. It is something darker, quieter, stranger. The rhythm of Strasbourg, once measured by bells, has been broken, and in its place is another rhythm, one that does not stop, one that grips the body and will not let go. Closing of scene to the Chronicles tell us that the dancing continued through the summer. Week after week, the square was filled with restless motion. The authorities prayed, the people feared, the dancers suffered, and yet, for all the strangeness, for all the terror, it remained real. This was not a tale invented in legend, not a parable told by monks. It was written in the records of the city. It was remembered by those who watched, by those who could not forget. The year 1518 would forever be marked by a season when dancing took hold of a city and would not release it. Scene 3, the mystery of the dancing plague. The summer of 1518 left the city of Strasbourg bewildered. The people had seen with their own eyes the endless steps, the wild gestures, the silent agony of neighbours and strangers alike. They had heard the sound of feet striking stone, not for hours, but for weeks, and when it finally faded, it left behind a silence deeper than before, but questions remained. What had truly happened? Why had people danced when they did not wish to dance? Why had their bodies turned against them? Let us now step carefully through the possible answers, shaped by belief, by fear, by science, and by the passage of centuries. The medieval mindset in the year 1518, life was framed through faith. The church shaped understanding, and divine will was seen in every event, whether blessing or curse. To the people of Strasbourg, the plague of dancing was not merely a strange sickness, it was a sign. Some believed it was the wrath of Saint Vitus, a figure often invoked in connection with strange bodily afflictions. Prayers were offered at chapels dedicated to him, and pilgrims carried dancers to holy shrines in hopes of release. The logic was simple. If the body moved against its will, then only divine forgiveness could restore it. Others saw the dancing as possession, not by saints, but by darker forces, spirits that clung to the city, feeding on its weakness. Whispers passed through the crowd. Demons had entered the bodies of the dancers. Evil had walked openly in Strasbourg. In this world, there was no sharp divide between mind and body, between spirit and flesh. The unseen was always present, and so the mystery was accepted not as a puzzle to solve, but as a judgment to endure. The weight of the times, but to understand the dancing, we must also understand the city itself. Strasbourg in 1518 was not peaceful. Famine had troubled the land. Disease lingered. Taxes and hardships pressed heavily on the poor. Imagine a city where hunger gnawed, where sickness shadowed every family, where fear of punishment and failure pressed upon daily life. The body carries these burdens, even when silent. Stress, despair, exhaustion, they leave their mark, invisible yet heavy. It is here, some historians suggest, that the seeds of the dancing plague were planted. A city on edge, its people trembling beneath pressures too great to bear, finally gave way. And when one woman began to move uncontrollably, others followed, caught not by contagion of the flesh, but by contagion of the mind. The theory of mass hysteria. Modern scholars use the term mass psychogenic illness, or more simply, mass hysteria. It describes situations where groups of people share symptoms not because of a physical cause, but because of shared stress, shared fear, and shared belief. In this view, Frau Troffea's first steps may have been the spark. Her body, overwhelmed by stress or illness, moved without her will. The people around her, already anxious, already fearful, already primed by stories of saints and curses, saw her and felt their own bodies respond. And so the dance spread, not through blood, not through breath, but through sight, sound, and belief. This explanation is gentle, but also haunting, for it reminds us that the mind and body are never fully separate. What we see, what we believe, can shape how we move, how we suffer, how we survive. The theory of ergot. And yet, there is another possibility. Some scholars point to ergot, a fungus that grows on rye. When eaten, it releases chemicals similar to those found in hallucinogenic substances. It can twist the body with convulsions. It can cloud the mind with visions. It can burn the skin and weaken the heart. In times of famine, when bread was baked from spoiled grain, whole communities might consume this fungus without knowing. History tells of other outbreaks villages where people suffered fits, hallucinations, and madness, later traced back to ergot poisoning. Could the dancers of Strasbourg have eaten such bread? Could their endless movements have been convulsions, their visions born of poisoned grain? The theory holds weight, and yet it also falters. Ergot poisoning usually weakens, cripples, kills, but the dancers of Strasbourg moved with energy, with force, even beyond exhaustion. Their steps were rhythmic, almost purposeful, not the random spasms of poisoning. And so, while ergot offers a clue, it does not solve the puzzle fully. The theory of ritual. There is also another way to see the story, not as sickness, not as madness, not as poison, but as ritual. Throughout medieval Europe, there were traditions of dance connected to faith, to saints, to healing. Pilgrimages were made where people danced in long lines, their steps seen as prayers, their movements as offerings. It is possible that the dancers of Strasbourg began in ritual an attempt to call upon healing, to release grief, to invite mercy. But in a city strained by famine and fear, ritual may have slipped into frenzy. What began as prayer might have spiraled into compulsion, leaving the people trapped in motion until their bodies failed. The mystery remains, and so we are left with many possibilities, but no certainty. Perhaps it was mass hysteria, the mind's response to unbearable stress. Perhaps it was ergot, the poison of bread, twisting body and soul. Perhaps it was ritual, collapsing into frenzy. Or perhaps it was something else entirely, something the records could not capture, something we can no longer imagine. The dancing plague remains, to this day, a mystery. Lessons in the silence. What, then, do we learn from Strasbourg's strange summer? First, that human history is not only war and kings, not only discoveries and inventions, it is also strangeness, mystery, the unexplainable moments that remind us how fragile we are, how curious our bodies and minds can be. Second, that suffering often hides beneath the surface of ordinary life. The people of Strasbourg lived with hunger, with fear, with burdens unseen. Their bodies carried the weight, and in the end, That weight found expression in the most unusual of ways. And finally, we learn that mystery itself is part of history. Not every story offers answers. Some only leave us with questions. And yet, these questions linger, holding our imagination, reminding us that the past is never simple, never fully known. Closing of Scene 3. As the summer of 1518 passed, the dancing faded, the city returned to its rhythm, the bells rang once more, markets reopened, life continued, but those who had watched could never forget. They had seen a city gripped by rhythm, a people taken by steps they did not choose. They had seen joy turned to compulsion, movement turned to suffering, and we, centuries later, still wonder, still ask, still imagine the sound of feet against stone. The mystery of the dancing plague remains half history, half legend, entirely unforgettable, seen for broader reflections, humanity in the shadow of the dancing plague, a gentle opening. The story of Strasbourg's summer of 1518 could end with silence. The dancers fall still, the city breathes again, and the mystery lingers in the past. But there is more to draw from it if we look softly. History, after all, is not only about what happened. It is about what those moments mean, about how they echo through time, about how they speak to us today. And so, let us walk slowly through these echoes. The fragility of the body. Imagine yourself living in Strasbourg. Your body is your greatest possession. Your hands for work, your legs for walking to the market, your back for carrying water, your voice for prayer. Life depends on these simple physical tasks. Now imagine watching your neighbor's body betray them, moving without choice, draining strength, pulling them toward collapse. You see not freedom, but imprisonment within their own skin. The dancing plague reminds us how fragile our bodies truly are. A small imbalance, whether born of mind, of food, of spirit, or of fear, can shift the body from harmony into chaos. And yet, even in fragility, there is resilience. For most survived. They rested, they healed, they returned to life. Fragility and resilience, side by side, woven into the rhythm of humanity. The weight of the mind. The mind, too, carries its burdens. Strasbourg was heavy with famine, with illness, with fear of sin and punishment. In such a place, the mind bends. Belief and anxiety shape perception. What one person suffers, another can mirror. The dancing plague is, perhaps, a mirror of the mind under pressure, an entire community echoing each other's fears and each other's movements. And here lies the gentle lesson. What we feel is never fully separate from what others feel. Anxiety spreads, fear spreads, fear spreads, but so does kindness, so does hope. Just as dance moved from one body to another, so too can comfort. The role of belief. Faith and belief were the language of the 16th century. If illness struck, the people looked not to medicine first, but to the saints. If suffering spread, it was not only a physical matter, but a spiritual one. We may smile, now, at the idea of Saint Vitus cursing a city to dance. But pause for a moment. Is it so different from our own ways of explaining what we do not understand? We, too, search for reasons. We, too, cling to explanations, science, psychology, fate, chance. Belief is not only superstition, it is the framework through which people endure mystery. And Strasbourg shows us that even in confusion, belief gave shape to chaos. The rhythm of community. Think also of the community itself. The dancers were never alone. They moved in public, surrounded by neighbors, They were carried to shrines. They were tended when they collapsed. Though they suffered, they were not abandoned. The city watched, puzzled, frightened, sometimes cruel, sometimes compassionate, but always present. This, too, is a lesson. Humanity exists in rhythm together. We fall, we rise, we bear witness. Even when the rhythm is strange, even when it is painful, it is shared, echoes across time. The dancing plague may feel distant, but echoes of it appear even in later centuries. Mass hysteria in schools, where one child's cough spreads to many. Communities shaken by fear, where stress erupts in strange physical symptoms. Moments when groups of people move, suffer, or react in ways no single one of them might have chosen alone. These echoes remind us that the line between mind and body, individual and group, is delicate, and that human history is filled not only with battles and inventions, but also with mysteries of behavior, still unfolding today. Gentle contrast, the world of the elite, while the poor of Strasbourg danced unwillingly. The city's wealthier citizens lived another rhythm. For the merchants and the clergy, life was still ordered meals, served at proper hours, prayers recited in chapels, silks and fine wool worn in shaded courtyards. To them, the dancers seemed like a spectacle, a troubling disruption of order. Some offered alms, others scorn. Their lives were buffered by wealth, but even they could not fully escape the strangeness. The music of the city, the sound of feet against stone, reached their halls as well. Here lies another reflection. History always carries contrasts. The weight of poverty, the ease of wealth, the mystery that crosses both worlds. Even the privileged could not turn fully away from the sight of their city in motion. A soft, closing reflection as the story drifts toward its end. Let us pause. The year 1518 has long passed. Strasbourg has changed. The square where people danced is now quiet stone, where modern footsteps pass without notice. But if you listen closely, you may imagine the echo of that strange summer, the steady rhythm of feet, the murmur of crowds, the silence after. The dancing plague of 1518 remains not for its answers, but for its questions. It reminds us that human life is delicate, mysterious, sometimes inexplicable, that body and mind are never truly separate, that community shapes what we feel, and that belief gives form to the unknown. And so, as you rest, let your thoughts drift gently with these echoes. The rhythm of history, the mystery of humanity, the quiet reminder that the past is never as distant as it seems. Close your eyes, breathe softly, and let the story fade as the dancers of Strasbourg once faded into silence. And now, our journey through history comes to a close. The echoes of the past grow quiet, and the world of Strasbourg drifts far away. You are here, in this moment, in the stillness of your own breath. The rhythm of the story fades, and only calm remains. As you close your eyes, let the quiet of history carry you deeper into rest. The mysteries of the past will wait for another night. For now, there is only peace. Thank you for joining me in this gentle reflection. May your dreams be soft, your rest be deep, and may you awaken with lightness. Good night, and sleep well.